Hello, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video using the Sweet Jane kit from the Scraptastic Kit Club. Today's layout was inspired by techniques that I learned in Irit and Jenn Schow's class called Make an Impact, which teaches you simple techniques for striking layouts. I was thrilled to be asked to have a look at the class and see if I could make a layout based on one of the techniques that was taught in the class, and did I ever have fun with this one. So getting started right away, you see that I'm here on my computer and I have this cut file pulled up, which was included with the class. The class included several cut files, and this one was called Mosaic Tile Background. And I'm just cutting it on a scrap piece of cardstock. It's a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. I'm pretty sure it's by Stampin' Up, and you'll see that it's missing a little tiny square. And I just knew when I chose that piece of paper that that little missing square would not interfere with the file that I was cutting. And I just cut it at exactly the same size, sorry, that Jenn had designed the cut to be. And now I'm just using my little Cricut scraper to scrape all of these little green squares off of my mat so that I can, and I'm just going to put those in the recycling. If you wanted to use those for making embellishments, they'd be perfect for that kind of thing. And one of the squares didn't cut, and I'm pretty sure that that is because I actually moved my silhouette as it was cutting that part of the cut file. And silhouettes are really, really sensitive to being moved and to changes in the light and that sort of thing. And so I think I messed it up in the process of it cutting that square by moving my machine. It was pushed in too close to the wall and it would have crumpled up the green paper when it went through. So now I'm just taking a piece of white basil cardstock from my stash, and I'm going to use that as my background. Now, the reason I cut my cut file on such a strange color of green, which is not a color that I typically scrapbook with as a background, and I'm just cutting my picture here with my Creative Memories trimmer. It's printed at 3x3. I printed it on my Picture Mate Charm, which is an Epson printer. And now I'm really just laying that piece of cardstock. The reason I cut it from such a funny color is that I'm just going to use it as a template. So I don't have any, and I'm just looking through the kit there for what pattern papers I'm going to use, because that will help me choose the color of ink that I want to put on this background. And I'm also having a look at what embellishments, because again, what embellishments I use will also determine what color I want to use. I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to use green to pick up on all that beautiful green in my photo. And back to the cut file. I cut it from that green because I'm going to use it as a stencil. I don't have any stencil paper. I know that you can get stencil paper specifically for your silhouette that cuts it out of a sturdy plastic paper that you can use over and over again to make templates and stencils with. However, I don't have any of that, and I was going to cut it out of transparency, but my transparencies are 8.5 by 11, so the cut file wouldn't fit on that. So I just decided to cut it out of cardstock. When in doubt, just use what you have. You can usually make it work. I wasn't sure whether it would make the most sturdy template that I'd be able to use it again and again, but I was pretty sure that I could get a single use out of it because I have done this kind of thing before with a silhouette cut file, just cut out of cardstock. Now, I am using golden light molding paste, and I also have my Adirondack color wash in the color Lettuce. Now, this supply might look a little new to you if you're a relatively new scrapbooker. These are actually very old products that are not I don't know if you can still buy the Adirondack color washes. It's a Ranger product, and I'm pretty sure that they've been replaced by the Dylusion sprays. So if you have Dylusion sprays, it's probably exactly the same product as the Adirondack color washes. So I would just use any kind of spray or mist instead. You could also use ink or re-inkers or anything colorful to tint the color of your molding paste. And this is one of the techniques that I picked up from the texture class the texture lesson, I guess, in the class. And so I started with a very, very, very light color that I tinted the molding paste, and then I'm making it, that was a little bit too dark. I didn't want it to be too different. So now I'm just adding a little bit more of the color to this, to the molding paste. And I chose light molding paste. It's so light and fluffy. I absolutely love it. It's always comes out the texture of frosting. And I just love working with that texture. I have some other molding pastes and embossing pastes and stuff that have like a thicker, more less fluffy consistency, but I just prefer playing with this. They give you almost exactly the same look, but this is just more fun for me to play with. So you'll notice I'm adding quite a few drops of that color wash now to really get my molding paste quite green now that I'm getting down to the bottom. So the top is almost white, just barely noticeably green. And then it gradually gets more and more intense as I go towards the bottom. And this is a technique that Irit used in her lesson, one of her lessons. And so the very last row or 2 rows is going to be a very intense, I love this green. It's like a grass green, and it picks up very nicely on the green that's in my photo. And then that comes off just so easily. And I was really happy that there were no leaks or anything underneath, even though I did just use cardstock. I didn't use plastic. It worked quite well. And now I have some extra molding paste on the stencil, and this is something that they did in the class too. And I've done this before, but only with art journaling. For some reason, it never occurs to me to do this for a scrapbook layout. I always, when I'm doing my art journal, I guess it's because the pages are right there. You can easily just flip a couple pages back and stamp your leftover product on it. I had extra green on my palette knife that I didn't want to go to waste either. So I just smeared that in my art journal, which is what I would normally do when I was art journaling. But it's nice to be reminded to do these things when you're scrapbooking too, because the line between art journaling and scrapbooking is pretty blurred. So I was just showing you what that bottle looks like in case you have some of those in your stash. You want to pull out the lettuce one to use, or you could use any color mist or colored product. So here's my finished product, and I did give you a little close-up there. I just took a close-up with my phone before I dried it. I'm using my heat gun to dry this, and it does dry fairly fast. I find the golden molding paste, it dries quite fast. It's not a very wet product to begin with, and I'm just drying the back there. And I find that it holds up to adding lots and lots of drops of color. It doesn't get too runny or anything, so that it won't kind of slip in behind your stencil and make a mess underneath. And it also dries really fast. And the other nice thing about the golden molding paste that I really like over other ones is that it tends to blend really easily. So now I'm using a second technique that was in the class. I'm folding up a baby wipe, and I'm going to put some color. I'm going to use these color washes because I vowed to try to use them a little bit more. But you could use any kind of mists that you have. So I'm just grabbing some other supplies I have on hand to just show you that I could have done this with any number of liquidy, colorful products. You could also put some ink, like smear some ink, like I guess you could kind of dab some small ink pads onto the baby wipe as well. I haven't tried that one, but that was just an idea I had that you could try. So I'm going to start with the lettuce, and then I have stream, and then wild plum. And I've used this wild plum before. I know this is a strange color combination of green and blue and purple. I've used this color combination before, and usually the wild plum comes out quite a bit lighter. I guess I used too much of it, or I don't know. I've never used it with this particular technique. And so what I'm doing is I'm just loading up the baby wipe with color, and then I'm smearing it along a smooth piece of white cardstock and creating my own pattern paper. And you noticed, I don't know if you noticed or not, but before I did this, I made sure that my baby wipe was the width of my butterfly punch because I'm planning to punch some butterflies out of this. So I had all of that ink on my baby wipe and it was making such pretty patterns that I decided to just lay down some of those patterns in my art journal as well. I can use that later before I threw the baby wipe in the garbage. So I was hoping that those colors would pick up on the colors in that paper of the Scraptastic Sweet Jane kit. I really like that paper and I really, really wanted to use it, but it's just not going to work on this layout. I'll have to try again. So I want this butterfly to punch so that I can see all three colors in most of the punches, and also there's some white space showing and I kind of really like that. And so I'm positioning it upside down so that I can just know where it's punching, and then I'm flipping it over to actually do the punching because that's just an easier way for me to punch. And probably safer too, because that blade isn't terribly sharp, but it could probably cut you if you slipped and I don't know. Yeah, so you'll notice that those butterflies are nice and varied in terms of how dark they are and which colors I'm catching. I want all of the butterflies to have horizontal lines on them. So I'm cutting the paper so that I can get this smaller butterfly punch. Smaller butterfly punch, they're both Martha Stewart punches, and they have the exact same shape of butterfly, but the larger punch is obviously a larger butterfly, and the smaller punch has 3 different sizes of smaller butterflies. So it gives you a nice variety of the same shape. This is already dry, but I don't know why I'm being so paranoid. I love the look of it so much. I really didn't want to mess up this pattern when I was scrapbooking. So I just wanted to make sure it was dry, but it was well beyond dry by this point. So see how that paper just isn't going to work. And then I thought maybe I could mat it with a different paper, but so then I'm going to stop trying to mat it and I'm just going to go ahead and scrapbook this picture. So I'm thinking about this picture is at a very extreme angle, which is not usually, I will often take funny angles, but not quite this extreme. This is pretty much a 45-degree angle, which makes the photo for the horizon to be flat. The photo needs to be a diamond shaped instead of a square shape. I'm going to use this frame from the Sweet Jane kit to use as a photo corner. I'm going to use it as 2 photo corners actually. And so I don't often like to have a photo quite so askew on my page, but I thought I'd just go with it and make this be just a like a diamond shaped photo instead of a square shaped photo. It was one of those things where I would have liked the photo to be just a little bit off kilter to have a fun, whimsical look, but I was crouching down at the base of the washer toss and there was a washer coming at me, so I kind of had to take the photo as quickly as I could and get the heck out of there before someone hit me. And I was telling them like not to actually throw the washer, but they kept throwing the washers anyways at me. I think that they were having fun scaring me with the washers. And so luckily I was able to, because I risked my consciousness by taking that photo, I was pretty glad that I caught a washer midair in one of the shots that I took. So I really like the photo because of the color and also just the action, the fact that Olivia's arm is sort of extended as if you can tell that she just threw that washer and then the washer is actually in the air. So here I am trying really hard. I'm really giving it a good go here, trying to use this paper that I really like this paper, but it's not going to work on this layout. It is just too busy for the look that I'm looking for. If I was trying a different type of a layout that had lots of different pattern papers all over it, I think this paper would have looked better. I don't think this paper necessarily looks bad with the photo or with the background. It's just not the vision that I had in mind. So you'll see me change my mind in a few minutes. I'm going to go down this road a little ways before I change my mind. And sometimes when I do this, I end up not changing my mind. Like it looks like it's not going to work and not going to work. And then suddenly I put a couple of embellishments on and yes, it's going to work. So I do like to follow a bad idea down, down a path a little ways before I decide that it is a bad idea, just because you never know when something is going to make a difference. And that's what being creative is all about. It's about taking risks and doing things that you're not sure about and seeing how it works. And then if you don't like it, you can always change it, which is what I'm going to do in a few minutes. So here I'm putting these butterflies on the layout. And what I thought I'd do is make them go up in a roughly up in a line a little bit to the right-hand side of the photo. And at this point, I still have "These Days" as my potential title. And so I'm just taking a variety of the butterflies with a variety of different looks to them. I don't want any of them to look too much the same as I'm choosing them. And I know I was talking about taking the photo while I took my tissue paper and bunched it up and put it behind my photo. That's another technique that was in the class for added texture and interest. And I have done that before, but I haven't done it in a very, very, very long time. So it was really nice to revisit that technique and give my photo lots and lots of layers. But the nice thing about using tissue paper, or in the class they used computer paper, is that because it's so thin, you can get lots and lots of layers behind your photo and not have it look too bulky. I have 5 pieces of tissue paper behind that photo, and it still lies very, very flat, and you just get to see the wispiness of the edges. And I didn't bother fixing up the edges that when they cut kind of jaggedy. I really like the interest that adds. And I just stapled them together, and then I glued my photo down onto the tissue paper, and then I just trimmed around the whole thing to get it the size and shape that I wanted. So here I did a little switcheroo with that strokey paper that I really wanted to use, and I switched it for this large polka dot paper. What I like about this large polka dot paper is it has all of the colors in it, especially when I use it in this orientation. It has all the colors that I'm using in this layout. It has that purpley pink that I swatched onto the white cardstock. And it has the blue, and it has that yellowy green color. So I'm just outlining the butterflies with my gray Chamel pen. I love my gray Chamel pen. It is a really nice warm color of gray. It almost looks like pencil lines. And that just gives my butterflies a little bit more impact, especially where they're landing tone on tone, like where the green lies on one of the green squares, or where some white overlaps with the white. I just want to define the shape of the butterfly, of each of those butterflies. And I'm outlining even the tiny ones, even though they are pretty hard to outline. I'm going ahead and doing it anyways. I'm just using the back of a sticker sheet as my scratch paper there in case I go off the butterfly. I don't want to mess up my layout or my grid paper. So I thought about putting dots on the middles of all of these butterflies, but that looks a little bit too bold for me. I do like the green dots. They're exactly the same shade as the bottom color of the green molding paste. I'm going to pick up more of the green by using this sticker, which was another frame, which I'm going to use as another little, I guess, a photo corner layered over top of another photo corner. I'm just layering it so that you can see the blue one under it. And what have I got there? Oh yes, so I was grabbing some wood veneer numbers, and I thought because you toss 3 washer tosses for the game, I thought I'd put like 1, 2, 3 there, but that's not going to stay. And I thought I would, if I did keep that, I would probably make them white. And then this banner is the same color of pink, so I thought about incorporating it, but I couldn't figure out where it would go, so I moved on from that. And now I'm going to use some of these word stickers, and that's what I'm going to put in the center of the butterflies. I just felt like those butterflies needed an extra little detail just to give them a little bit more impact for this layout. And so, of course, with the medium-sized butterflies, they're actually quite small. And so I had to trim down. I chose the smallest words like play, and I think life, and dad was another word that happened to be on. Oh, love is the other word. And I just trimmed them down so that they were just tiny, tiny little word stickers. And then I wanted the tiny butterflies to definitely match with the larger ones that have words on them, but there just wasn't enough room for words in the tiny butterflies. So there was this strip of, oh, I missed a butterfly, I guess. I'm putting the word dad on this one. And as I mentioned, I wanted the tiny butterflies to match the medium and large ones. So there were no words that were tiny enough, but there was this little strip of hearts. So I thought I would trim these down quite a lot so that they're just tiny little square hearts, squares with hearts on them. And they make a pretty little layer. That's what they look like. It's really tiny. I think it makes a big impact though to have those tiny little details. And to have them match with the other, or I guess coordinate with the other butterflies that are on the page. It's tiny little work, but I do like how it looks. It's very cute. So I'm deciding to take off the 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue down some of these things. So I have this, I want to jump and run and skip and hop and play all day. That's a piece of pattern paper. It's just a strip from the pattern paper from the kit. And I really liked the black and white impact that it added. I like the contrast and the pop of black that adds for the whole width of the layout. And now I'm just using my ATG on the back layer of tissue paper, and then it came detached from the staple that was in the middle. And so I just added a bit more ATG between the bottom and the second from the bottom. And then the rest of them are going to stay held with that staple. I'm scooching some of my butterflies over a little bit so that it looks like they kind of trail through the side of the photo instead of, I didn't want it to look like they're just beside the photo. I want it to kind of look like they're coming out from around the photo, but over to the right of it a little bit. So playing around a little bit with the placement of those, and I'm thinking about using those puffy dots, but not quite yet. I will use them at the very, very end. And what I'm thinking about now is I need some more pattern, especially pattern that incorporates that pink color that's in the butterflies, and then there's one dot. And so remember I made an extra piece of this patterned paper when I made the piece that I punched the butterflies out of. So I thought I could use these strips and just kind of piece them together along the top and the bottom, which is a place that I often will put a strip of pattern paper. But I'm going to kind of stack it so that there are 3 separate pieces on the top and on the bottom. And then I'm going to grab another piece of pattern paper from the kit. And this piece of pattern paper has a very, very subtle, I'm not going to use that one, that is a black and white square pattern from the kit, but this one has a very subtle pattern with that same purpley pink color, and I'm going to use my note paper border punch, which I'm also inspired by the class to use this border punch. I haven't pulled it out in a while. I went through a phase of using it back in January, and then I kind of put it away for a while again. But I think both Jenn and Irit used it in their class. And I love the impact that it makes, especially when you use it on a really subtle paper, like a plain white paper, or in this case, it's mostly white with just those little tiny triangular shapes on it in the pinky purple color. So I'm using Mono Aqua adhesive, which is a good adhesive for gluing paper to paper. And I am just piecing together those two strips. I'm not making it look like it's one. I want it to definitely look like there are 3 different pieces of paper down here. I don't want to trick you into thinking that it's all one piece. And so I'm leaving a bit of a gap in between them, and I'm making sure that I didn't continue the pattern on that 3rd piece of paper. I offset it a little bit so that it didn't continue the pattern of the paper before it. And I'm gluing that 3rd strip onto the piece of notebook punched paper so that it's just one, it becomes one element that I can then add below or above the other strips. So I like that. I like that it kind of continues, because the strips are so narrow, it kind of continues the square blots of color that you see in the middle, but it brings it to the top and the bottom and frames in the layout a little bit. So now I'm using Tombow Mono Multi adhesive to adhere these butterflies, and I am adhering it paper on paper, but sometimes I'm adhering it paper on molding paste. And whenever I'm using mixed media or anything that is not paper, I like to use Tombow Mono Multi because it is very, very, very strong. And perhaps the aqua glue is very strong too. I just don't have as much experience using it, and so I know for sure that the Tombow Mono Multi will hold. And so I'm not going to risk it by using a glue that I'm less familiar with. I've really only used the aqua for paper on paper applications. And that is what it is designed for, and that's what they recommend that you use it for. So, all right. So this layout is looking pretty good. I like it so far. And you'll notice that in the process of changing my mind about where this layout is going to go, I took off that glitter foam die cut piece, and I'm going to spell out my own title with letter stickers that came in the kit. So these gray letters I used to spell out the word toss, and I'm going to outline them in my gray Chamel pen. I've already outlined a few things in my gray Chamel pen, like those butterflies, and so this will tie the letters together, but it also gives the letters a little bit more emphasis. It turns out it didn't give the letters quite enough, but emphasis, and I'm going to do something else in a few minutes, but for now, I'm thinking that that makes them look a little bit more substantial, I guess, on this layout, which has a lot of, it has lots of colors and lots of interest going on, and then that pop of black and white with the pattern paper that runs the whole width of the layout. I didn't want the word toss to get lost in those, both the colors that are all around it and in the contrast that you get by adding the black. So I'm going to spell out washer in these black tile letter stickers that came in the kit, and I just overlapped them so that I could treat them as one full element, as one word, and I cut them out right on the waxed paper. And I trimmed them down quite a bit too so that there was less black showing. And that just makes them a little bit more light and less weighted because they are going to be placed fairly high up on the layout. So I cut off the extra wax paper so that I could position this S. This S is going to be tricky to position because I have to put the whole S on foam adhesive. And I'm just using the little tiny edges of my Stampin' Up! Foam adhesive. And so placement is going to be a little bit tricky because it's going to span a couple of different layers. And I just want to make sure that I'm placing it in such a way that it's going to be able to be lined up with the other S when I have to do the other S. And now this S just has one part of it that overhangs. So I did the same thing where I cut off the extra waxed paper so that I could position it based on not only the S that was already on the layout, but also on the O and the T that will be placed next. So these letter stickers, one of the things I really love about the Scraptastic exclusive letter stickers is that they don't stick to photos in the way that other stickers do, and you can peel them off and try again. And it's a good thing because I really struggled with placing this T. Too high, too low, too high, too low, just right, maybe. It's gonna do anyways. And so I just put one foam dot underneath of the R in the word washer, and then the rest of that word will just get some regular ATG adhesive. And I did put some foam dots behind the wings of the two larger butterflies. And so I just was adhering that down right now. And now I'm grabbing some of the word and phrase stickers from the kit as well. I'm putting Simply Amazing and the good stuff down below. And then up here, I'm putting a heart that says love this life. And then this one says so happy. And then I'll put a third one, but the third one I'm going to overlap so that, or underlap, I guess, so that it's under the notebook paper that's sticking out. And follow your heart was too big to put down on the bottom, so I decided to put it right under the title. And I'm a little aware that that skip and hop font is competing, so I thought maybe I'll just cover that right up with another word, with another phrase sticker. That's because it's a little bit more spaced out. It gives your eye a little bit more room to rest than the skip and hop and play all day paper. Just going to reposition it so it covers up most of the letters behind it. And I am going to add a third sticker. I just cut off the word lovely and I put it right there, so it's also hidden, partially hidden by that border punched paper. Now I'm pulling out my cake box that I use for sprinkling mists, and at first I thought I wanted to control this mist quite a lot and I wanted it to land in just these certain places, but actually I want mist everywhere, so forget that. So there's some mist right there, and then I'm going to sprinkle some more up here. And of course I got a piece of mist right beside the washer, which kind of takes away from the washer, so I just removed it with my finger. And the photos that you print with the Epson Picture Mate Charm are waterproof, and so if you get a bit of mist on it, you can usually get it off with either your bare finger or a baby wipe if you work really fast before it dries. And then I just wanted to sprinkle lots of random mist drops right amongst the butterflies. I think butterflies look beautiful with mist drops around them. They look more at home when you put mist drops around butterflies, I find. And now I do have a few words to say about this. It's not so much a story as much as it is a moment caught. And so I want to do some journaling, but I'm not exactly sure where. So first I'm actually not outlining here. I'm just drawing lines across, like right through the middles of these pieces of pattern paper that I created with the color washes. And I'm kind of thinking about, I'm playing around with, am I going to journal here? Am I going to journal there? Then I decided to grab my roller date stamp and some basic gray ink from Stampin' Up, and I stamped some dates up at the top that will balance off my journaling that I'm going to put at the bottom, and I'm going to put it right here at the end of that. Yeah, I'm gonna draw another line on that extra piece of pattern paper, and then I'm gonna put my journaling and then continue the line on the other side of my journaling so that my journaling is enclosed by a line that goes on either side of it and also across the pattern paper. And you'll see that and now I'm just gonna do that again. And I'm putting little tiny hashtags at the beginning, and not hashtags, but little hash lines at the beginnings and ends of each of those lines, just to make them look like they have a specific beginning and end. And now I'm taking my glazed gel pen in gray and I'm outlining around the letters in the word toss, which are already outlined in my gray Chamel pen, but they just didn't have enough impact with that pen. So I'm going to go ahead and outline with this, which gives me a much more bold gray line, and it's a little bit shiny and adds a little bit of extra dimension and texture to this layout, which is really mostly paper. Pretty much everything so far is paper or the molding paste that's on the paper. At the very end, and you're not going to see me do it, but at the very end I do add a couple of those puffy dots that I was trying to get onto the layout. They'll make it, but you won't see it. So there's my glaze pen by Sakura. And I really like how that looks. So now I'm going to show you the close-ups, and you'll see how I began those lines with two little hashes, with little hash marks, and then I run the line through the paper and actually off the paper for the bottom, in the case of the bottom strip of paper. And then here's what the layout looks like with all that beautiful texture and color that you get from the molding paste with that stencil from the cut file that Jenn included with the class. And now the bottom here is just, it's a repetition of many of the elements in the top, and then I just enclosed my journaling with that, within that line that I ran across that paper. And so you see how that tissue paper adds lots of extra texture to this layout, which is, as I mentioned, mostly paper. So that is, it's always good to keep in mind different ways that you can add dimension, especially when you're working mostly with paper and not with a whole lot of different textured elements. So there you see the enamel. They're actually not enamel dots. They're little puffy circles puffy dots that came in the kit. They're from Pink Fresh Studio. So there's 3 of them up there on the top little cluster. And I just chose gray, blue, and green. I didn't want to introduce the purple color, and I don't think I had the purple color on my enamel dots. And then there's, I keep calling them enamel dots, but there's 3 more down there at the bottom, as you saw. So thanks so much to Jenn and Irit for inviting me to take this class. I left the information about the class in the information section for this video. It's the Make an Impact class, and it's bundled with the Die Cut Diversity class as well for a great price. So check that out and have a really great scrappy week.